And we're starting off the list with quantum computing. So unlike traditional computers, which use bits that are either 0 or 1, quantum computing uses qubits, which can represent any combination of both 0 and 1 at the very same time. This means they can perform complex calculations much quicker than the computers we use right now. Vanga predicted breakthroughs in this technology playing out in 2024. Now, quantum computing isn't inherently bad, and it's definitely useful for solving complex problems, but there's a dangerous side to this type of technology. The major concern here is its potential ability to break encryption methods that we use day to day. Sensitive data could be leaked with far more ease than any hacker would be able to accomplish. Authentication systems that we have in place now could also become completely obsolete, leading to potential breaches and cyber attacks. More on cyber attacks later in the video, by the way. And at number 9, we have a global economic crisis. Vanga made a prediction that in 2024 the world might face a massive economic crash. This means a lot of money troubles, people losing jobs, businesses struggling to stay open, and it becoming incredibly difficult for many to manage their money. A giant financial storm that could affect how we all live and work. And as to the cause of this economic crisis, well, we're not certain, as these are simply unfounded predictions not based on evidence or anything really tangible. But if some of the stuff coming up on this list really does play out, it won't be much of a surprise why money will be an issue for a large segment of the population. And on top of that, money would be the least of our problems. One possible cause of the global economic downfall could be related to the very next prediction on our list, though. At our number 8 spot, we have a global disease. The prediction here is that there will be a worldwide epidemic similar to that little thing we experienced back in 2020, only this time much worse. During these wonderful couple years where we were in and out of being locked away indoors and wearing masks everywhere we went, there was this idea floating around that maybe this whole thing was preparing us for something bigger, a pandemic that would be more deadly, more contagious, and spread around the world faster than anything we had ever experienced before. Whether this will be some intentional virus spread to enact, political control or something nature will throw at us. If this prediction does end up coming true and we are met with some kind of terrifying super virus, I just really hope we're prepared. There's also a chance that Baba just got our dates wrong and this global infectious disease already swept its way through the population in 2020 and it's all mostly dealt with. It's also possible that her prediction is just completely bogus, so keep your pants on. Next up on the list we have the mysterious disease. Now this prediction directly affects the former president of the United States, Donald Trump. According to old Baba, Trump is going to contract a mysterious illness next year that will cause brain trauma and deafness. Can't help but wonder if this will be the result of the same disease that we just discussed. Sounds pretty awful though. Not sure what the brain damage would entail, but losing your hearing, definitely something I would not wish on anyone. Number 6, a strong dragon will take over the planet. Vanga spoke of a formidable dragon that would rise to prominence, and as cool as it would be for the Earth to be ruled by a winged, fire-breathing monster, she didn't mean dragon in the mythical sense. Instead, this quote-unquote dragon is a symbol of unity and power. This dragon, according to her visions, represents the coming together of Russia, India, and China, 3 major global players. What she essentially foresaw was this significant geopolitical development where these nations would forge a closer alliance and cooperate, forming a powerful bloc. And while she didn't really delve into the specifics about what this alliance would entail, the implications are pretty clear. The emergence of a powerful force that could totally reshape the political landscape of the world as we know it. This change in power could also potentially lead to another prediction that's been hinted at for 2024, a potential third world war, as said. Not fun to think about. Next up, we have the rise of AI. Apparently in 2024, the use of AI is going to skyrocket. completely changing the world as we know it. Out of pretty much everything on this list, this is something I can totally see happening because it already is. AI is progressing at an alarming rate, learning faster than any living person ever could. It's getting to the point where scientists are actually kind of concerned about AI gaining some form of sentience, and if that happens, we're most likely totally screwed. Not because AI would necessarily be intentionally malevolent and want to destroy us like Skynet, although it totally could, but mainly because it could easily replace us. Human expression, talent, and skill could become a thing of the past. Like, just look how quickly AI has already affected some industries. Writers and actors are on strike, animators and artists are fearing losing their jobs. I find AI really creepy, and I'm just hoping we're gonna find some way of integrating it in a way where it won't completely get out of control. At our number 4 spot, we have first contact with alien life. The Nostradamus of the Balkans predicted that extraterrestrials will finally make themselves known to us next year. Known to the public, anyway, if you're one of those folks who believes aliens are already amongst us. Introducing us to incredible new technology and changing the world as we know it, of course. Now, this could actually be positive. If they turn out to be friendly, this would be awesome. One step closer to that Star Trek world I've always wanted to live in. But if they're not so friendly, yeah, you know. Actually though, gotta say, if there's one way I'd want the world to end, it would be this. I think it'd be pretty cool. Going out battling aliens, be a much more awesome way for humanity to go extinct. Definitely beats the planet being destroyed by a giant meteor or something. That's just kind of boring. Far less heroic. Maybe being invaded by aliens would finally force humanity to come together for once, too, realizing that we're not all that different after all. Sucks we'd need an alien invasion for that to come to fruition, but it is what it is, I guess. Next, we have a rise in natural disasters. Apparently, 2024 is going to be met with a number of crazy disasters, mostly due to climate change. Tsunamis, monsoons, hurricanes, tornadoes, you name it. These disasters are predicted to cause widespread destruction and death. One specific prophecy relates to a powerful tsunami that will apparently hit Asia next year, being the most deadly since 2004. As to exactly where in Asia, not certain. Neither is the prediction, though. It's just that. It's a prediction. So for all the residents of Asia in the audience, don't panic yet. Take this with a grain of salt, a very heavy grain of salt. There's also predicted to be a major earthquake in the Pacific Rim. The shifting of tectonic plates in the Pacific Rim. We can have giant kaiju pop out of the ocean that we'll need to build giant-sized mechs in order to battle against. That would be pretty expensive. Could lead to a global economic collapse. Yeah, you see the dots starting to connect. And at number 2, we have chaos in Europe. Yeah, apparently Europe is going to go through a lot starting in 2024. You folks have some fun years ahead of you if Baba's predictions actually play out. Most of this relates to religious extremists unleashing more attacks on various parts of the continent, targeting both civilians and political leaders alike, one of whom is Vladimir Putin. Apparently someone from Russia is going to attempt to take him out. According to her, in the end, power will completely change hands in Europe. And it's not just that. Her predictions also stated that there would be a complete collapse of Europe's economy. All this will supposedly lead to displacement of many Europeans, with the continent being sparsely populated by 2025. So, word to the wise, you may want to hold off on your European vacations for the next little while, because it looks like things are going to get pretty hairy. Finally, we have a rise in cyber attacks. Vanga's vision of 2024 paints a pretty bleak picture of the digital realm, essentially becoming a battlefield, with malicious hackers orchestrating cyber assaults on an unprecedented scale. These attacks will apparently extend far beyond conventional data breaches and phishing attempts. Instead, they'll come about as like the sophisticated and highly destructive attacks that could compromise critical infrastructure, financial systems, even the fabric of society itself. Vanga hinted that these cyber threats might have geopolitical implications, potentially altering the balance of power in the world as we know it today. There are some predictions that overlap. here. As you could probably see, quantum computing could be a major factor with this increase in cyber attacks, and the change of power on a global scale could be related to that strong dragon mentioned earlier. These cyber attacks could also partially be responsible for how messed up Europe is predicted to get. But I want to close this out with a bit of positivity. First of all, although Baba Vanga has made a number of predictions that have come true, she's also made ones that haven't. And for all the dark stuff here that's said to play out, there's some good stuff too. Apparently we might get incredible medical breakthroughs for things like cancer. We may discover a new form of unlimited clean energy and good things in the years following 2024. So there's always light at the end of the tunnel. All that said, and we're starting things off with the rising of sea levels. Climate change is something that's talked about a lot and has been a concern for years. A rise in natural disasters is one of the primary predictions by Baba Vanga, said to possibly come to a head in 2024, with a rise in sea levels being a major factor. It's a concerning issue that happens because of things like melting ice in polar regions and the expansion of seawater as it gets warmer. Over the years, the rising water can lead to problems like coastal flooding, erosion, and damage to communities near the coast. It's not something that happens overnight, but it's a slow and steady process. Many coastal areas and low-lying islands are at risk, and people living there might have to move or adapt to deal with higher water levels. Governments and scientists around the world are studying this problem and trying to figure out how to address it. They're looking at ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to slow down the warming of the planet, and also thinking about building stronger defenses like seawalls and flood barriers. At number 9, we have the Asteroid, a list of dark predictions with an asteroid involved. Definitely ominous. Fear not though, this one won't be as bad as the one that killed off all the dinosaurs. The prediction doesn't specify exactly where this asteroid will hit or exactly how large it will be, but it's predicted to be powerful and destructive enough to result in a considerable loss of life. But as I said, it doesn't mean the end of the world. Baba Vanga has tons of predictions that go far beyond 2024. In fact, according to her, the world isn't supposed to end until 5079, so we still have some time, depending on whether or not you believe her, of course. The world could totally end far past 5079, or it could end in like 5 minutes. You'd never know. Next on the list, we have unethical surveillance. Now, this is something that's already taking place. We have cameras on us almost everywhere we go. We may not even know it, but advances in surveillance technology are supposedly going to skyrocket in the coming year. The rise in unethical surveillance technology is a growing concern. Here you have the development of tools and systems for monitoring people without their consent or knowledge. This technology can include invasive tracking devices, hidden cameras, and software that collects personal data without your permission. There's such a potential for stuff like this to be misused. Some would argue, most would probably argue, that it very much already is being misused. Governments, corporations, everyday individuals have a greater access to personal information than ever and could use it for purposes that violate ethical standards. Unwarranted spying on individuals, mass data collection without consent. Just look at all the ads you get on Google just based on things you've talked about with a friend. It's creepy. Or, the use of surveillance to discriminate or target specific groups could even be a thing. The consequences of unethical surveillance technology can be pretty severe. It could lead to breaches of personal privacy, erosion of trust, and potential harm to individuals and society as a whole. At our number 7 spot, we have a change in Earth's orbit. Now we're getting into some of the more outlandish predictions, but I'm here for it, and so are you, because you're watching me talk about it. Now, as to exactly what degree the orbit is predicted to change or how, it's uncertain, but this could obviously have some pretty dramatic consequences. Our planet is in a very fine balance, and even just the slightest change could throw things off completely. We could see huge disasters hit the planet, and again, one of Baba's big 2024 predictions is a higher level of natural disasters, so maybe they come about as a result of this shift. If Earth were to move closer to the sun, you would see a huge spike in temperatures and radiation at the other end of the spectrum, too far from the sun, and we could easily have another ice age on our hands, like the likes of which would be worse than the Earth has ever seen. Speaking of the sun though, at number 6 we have the solar storm. Baba Vanga predicted that we would experience a terrible solar storm in 2024, the worst in history. Solar storms occur when bursts of energy are emitted from the sun, releasing electrical charges, magnetic fields, and radiation out into the solar system. Usually these storms don't greatly affect us here on Earth, but if one happened to be particularly massive, it could have some pretty severe consequences. Technology could be disrupted, there could be massive blackouts, and if these were bad enough to cause lasting damage, it could lead to the economic issues she also predicted, as well as chaos, as people have become pretty reliant on technology and electrical power in our everyday lives. Some of you are definitely not old enough to remember the massive Northeast blackout of 2003, but it was pretty freaky. It affected 55 million people in 8 US states and parts of Ontario, Canada. It was hard to keep food cool. The subway system was of course down. People were, lighting candles and reading. Honestly, some of it was kind of nice. A time to pause and actually reflect on how much we take everyday necessities for granted while actually going out and doing stuff besides watching TV into the late hours of the night. But had it gone on longer, things could have started getting bad very quickly. Coming in at number 5, we have bioweapons research. According to the Nostradamus of the Balkans, there will be some very dark research taking place in regards to bioweapons. As to where this research will take place, it isn't specified, just that a big country will be carrying out the research in the form of unethical experimentation on people. These experiments could lead to the loss of life on a huge scale. Now, of course, this would all be going on in secret, so verifying something like this could prove to be a bit of a difficult task. Biological warfare has to be one of the scariest forms of warfare out there to me. It's something you just don't see coming, almost impossible to fight against, causing mass hysteria in its wake. Definitely hope this one it doesn't come true, along with everything else on this list, obviously, but especially this one. Next up, we have a really weird one with the end of births. This is some of the sillier stuff that makes me much more skeptical of all the other predictions Baba Vanga has made. Apparently, 2024 will see a full-on end to natural births. That's quite a bold prediction. Hard to see this one coming to fruition within the next year. Distant future? Possibly, but not anytime soon. Apparently there could be a ban on natural births, with humans being grown in labs instead. Gene editing technology could come into play here, a technology that's well into development already, allowing parents to choose what genetic traits their child would be born with. Again, I have a hard time seeing this one play out anytime soon. Gene editing, sure, but an outright ban on natural births? I don't know. At least not on a global scale. Then again though, maybe she wasn't talking about it happening on a global scale. Maybe this will only affect one country, for example. At number 3, we have augmented humans. 2024 is predicted to see a rise in technology that allows human beings to replace parts of their body with cybernetic implants. We already have technology like this, and it's great for people who were born without important body parts or lost them, but this type of technology also has the potential to get out of hand. When we start integrating technology into our bodies, there are concerns about privacy and security. Imagine if hackers could access your augmented body parts, or if the data from these enhancements was exploited somehow. It could lead to identity theft or other malicious activities. There's also the risk of inequality. Everyone might not have access to these enhancements, creating a divide between those who can afford them and those who can't. This would only make that gap between the haves and have-nots even wider. Another concern is dependence on technology. If we were to start relying too much on these enhancements, we might lose some of our natural abilities and skills. What if the technology fails or becomes obsolete? We could find ourselves in a pretty vulnerable position. Ethical questions arise as well. What happens when we enhance our cognitive abilities? Will it create unfair advantages in education or out in the job world? And when it comes to physical enhancements, should athletes be allowed to use them in sports. There are some deep philosophical dilemmas here. When we merge with machines, what does it even mean to be a human? Might lose touch with our humanity or create a society where being normal means having artificial enhancements. It's a lot to think about. And at number 2, we have the environmental destructor. Yeah, that doesn't sound very nice. Sounds like some sort of comic book superweapon that instantly freezes anything in its path. Well, apparently that's exactly what it is, except this won't happen in a comic book, it'll happen in real life. Yeah, we're getting kooky here again, but I'm just gonna embrace it and imagine that this could actually be a thing. According to Vanga, the United States will be caught up in a war resulting in the development of a highly advanced weapon, a weapon that freezes things. I can see the ice-based pun memes now when this thing gets revealed to the public, and then everyone will start protesting that they have the right to have their own high-powered freezing weapon in their own homes, and I'd probably understand it. I'd want one too. Finally, we have the bird virus. Apparently some mysterious illness isn't only going to be potentially hitting human beings in 2024, but the birds as well. What birds? What virus? We don't know, but it could have quite an effect on our planet. Birds play a pretty big role in the ecosystem. If this virus was bad enough, it could spread to other animals as well, predators who eat birds, and maybe even human beings. Or the result of said virus could be zombie-like, get deranged birds swooping down from the sky to exact ruthless aggression against the non-flying animals of the earth. We could have a real-life version of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds on our cybernetic hands, but with all our unethical surveillance, we'd see them coming from miles away anyway, at least. And with our brand new environmental destructor weapons, we could freeze them in midair.
And moving right along, number 6.
Not being by nature particularly attracted to the ineffable or the mysterious. However, it seems that the idea of higher consciousness is in fact a very interesting one.
In what was more of an opinion or a statement, she claimed that the consciousness of people as a whole will change, and that we are witnessing devastating events that will change not only our outlook on life, but the fate and destiny of humanity.
Human consciousness can be enhanced, maintained, and transferred through and onto any hardware device or cloud service entity.
Talk about being dark. Number 5. Trains will fly by sunlight. This one is quite a famous prediction, but it isn't clear if she was referring to them as being, solar powered or actually whizzing by the sun in the solar system. Maybe she's referring to the Virgin's Hyperloop train that is said to travel as fast as commercial airplanes through tunnels that look pretty futuristic and cut travel time down from hours to just minutes. And moving right along to number 4.
The universe owes you a debt of gratitude for bringing this to my attention. Now, in terms of how we handle this moving forward, obviously, Earth is canceled.
Beyond 2021, she predicted that life in the cosmos will be discovered, and even went as far to say that it will be in that moment we will all understand how life on Earth came to be.
His what now?
All humans on Earth and in the afterlife will be extinguished, and we will start the entire human race over from scratch.
Moving on to number 2, we have this.
Vanga proclaimed her prophetic abilities not only allowed her to tap into an unknown realm of information, but it also put her in contact with extraterrestrials.
Vanga believes that after we learned about the creation of Earth, the next 200 years humans will be connecting with their ancestors in other worlds. I know Elon talks about it a lot, about becoming multi-planet species, and that on Earth, we're gonna destroy Earth, we're not gonna be living on Earth for long. We have to find other planets to keep the fate of humanity alive. And anything that Elon Musk says, aka my hero, aka I think he's more than 85% right about predictions, whatever Elon says, I believe. So I think there's gonna be a world where my ancestors or my family members, my cousin, is gonna be living on other planets. Finally, in at number 1. And maybe the most chilling prediction of all, a strong dragon will seize humanity. Is this real life right now? But hey, I thought we were talking about like the dragon, like a real dragon, Game of Thrones being real life, but I think it's being referred to as China and world domination by them. It's pretty scary to know, like they have over, like, what is it, 1.3 billion people? They could probably invade where I'm from in Canada. We only have 30 million. They could probably destroy us right now. All right, with that said, number 9 on this list, we have this. Due to the radioactive showers in the Northern Hemisphere in 2020, because of the war mentioned previously, animals and or plants will die.
We have already seen how devastating nuclear attacks can be on societies like Hiroshima and Chernobyl.
No life has been able to grow in those places in a healthy, normal way due to the aftermath of nuclear explosions, and that happened so long ago.
Coming in at number
Find it.
The effects of rising seas are already being felt. Coastal communities, even in the UK, becoming more vulnerable to storm surges and extreme weather events.
and coming at the number 1 spot, 40.
I was born in Jersey. Where are you from? I was born in Jersey. Okay, and raised in South Florida. There it is. Where did Canada come from? That's where I was cloned at. Story for another day.
Anybody's organs can be cloned or manufactured.
Yo, I'd want to clone myself.
You want to clone your whole self?
Yeah, I do half the work. Like me, number 1 does half the work. Me, number 2 does the other half.
Oh, but see, you're getting too spicy with your clone right now. Because when you start telling your clone what to do, then your clone kills you and takes your spot. That's always the clone predicament.
Damn, that's the Che prediction.
Yeah, no. That's you. You have to be very careful with the clone because the clone will try to take your spot.
Damn. Well, getting back to this, replacement of organs is becoming one of the best treatment methods.
Our administration believes that there are loopholes that could allow the cloning of human beings if the technology were developed.
This prediction is for the future beyond 2021 and 2022.
It's probably in like the far future. Unless Elon Musk is working on it now, then it'll probably happen pretty soon. But it hit our number 1 spot because, as you can see, this isn't anything new. Celebrities claim to have been cloned all the time. And there are some pretty dark holes that you can go down on YouTube if you start searching these things. What celebrity do you think is cloned?
Which one do I think is cloned? Zendaya is a clone of Halle Berry.
Interesting.
That's my
Who would you want to clone? I'd clone Elon Musk.
You clone Elon Musk?
Yeah, I want to get to Mars 2 times faster.
Yeah, I think that's a good clone. I don't know. I don't think I don't have a clone pick. That's not something I got in the catalog.
True.
Yeah. It's pretty alarming that former presidents of the United States, Bill Clinton, actually stated publicly that cloning is possible.
Ooh, that might be a clone right there.
You want to clone Bill Clinton?
No, he might already be a clone.
He might be a clone. That could be why he's so evil.
There's theories out there about it. Well, I wonder if Vanga spoke to the creators of Black Mirror, and that's how they got all their ideas, because all of this sounds like it could be episodes for future seasons.
Moving on to number 7, we have the human-animal hybrids. All throughout history, we have heard stories or legends of half-human, half-animal species like the centaur, a creature with the upper body of a man and the legs of a horse, or mermaids and mermen. But of course, these are just stories and the creatures aren't real. Or could they be? Well, Baba Vanga said that in 2164, animals will turn half-human. Again, we don't know why or how this happens, but she says that animals will mutate and turn into half-humans. So, is it possible? Will animals continue to evolve or mutate and become humans as well? I mean, we won't be alive to see it, but now I'm really curious. Making our way down the list, number 6, we have time travel. For all you time travel believers out there, I got good news for you. Baba Vanga predicted that in 2288, time travel will be made possible. Now, there are some discrepancies here. So she said that in 2288, time travel will be made possible. But she also said that in 2304, humans will discover time travel. So does that mean in 2288 we have all the technology available to be able to time travel, but we don't actually time travel until 2304? But again, time travel, as cool as it may be, is probably a bad idea. I mean, there are plenty of movies out there that show people altering the world's timeline, resulting in often big consequences. In our third spot, we have the submarine disaster. In 1980, Vanga predicted that, and I quote, "At the turn of the century in August of 1999 or 2000, Kursk will be covered with water and the whole world will be weeping over it." This came true. Kursk was a Russian submarine. On August 12, 2000, it sunk, aka was covered with water, as she claims. And as a result, the 118 crew members on board died, causing tons of family to weep over the deaths of their loved ones. So it's pretty scary how accurate she was with that prediction. In our second spot, we have the tsunami. It is theorized that Vanga predicted the devastating Boxing Day tsunami which occurred in 2004. Vanga predicted, and I quote, "A big wave will cover the shore and people will disappear underwater," which people interpreted as the 2004 tsunami. On December 26, 2004, a tsunami struck off the coast of Sumatra Island in Indonesia as a result of a magnitude 9.1 earthquake. Within 20 minutes of the earthquake, it caused 100-foot waves to crash down on the shoreline and kill 1,000 people. The waves were reported to travel as fast as 500 miles per hour. Then the tsunami waves hit the coastline in Thailand, India, and Sri Lanka, where it killed tens of thousands more. It is said that 230,000 people were killed, making it one of the deadliest disasters in modern-day history.
At number 5 is the assassination of Vladimir Putin. In the realm of Vanga's predictions, the mention of her purported forecast for 2024 has stirred quite the buzz. And among these speculated events, one particularly spine-chilling prophecy involves the demise of Russian President Vladimir Putin. It suggested that Putin, already the subject of various rumors, could face assassination by someone within his own nation. This prediction, if it were to come to fruition, would undoubtedly cause widespread shockwaves across the geopolitical landscape. The implications of such an event are far-reaching and could potentially trigger significant political instability within Russia and reverberate globally. However, while some may find these forecasts alarming, if it were to become a reality, it would be profound and unsettling for many. And number 2 is medical breakthroughs. Now, before we get into our final disturbing premonition, I thought I would at least include something good that this list is way too doom and gloom. And so, in the realm of ominous predictions, Vanga's 2024 predictions hold a mix of hope and trepidation, particularly in the medical sphere. Her forecast of potential medical breakthroughs could be a beacon of optimism, yet the weight of expectation remains hefty. Notably, her prediction of advancements in treating incurable diseases like Alzheimer's unravel a glimmer of hope for millions affected by these conditions. Equally striking is her assertion of a cancer cure on the horizon. However, it's crucial to maintain a balanced outlook considering the speculative nature of these predictions. While these prognostications spark optimism, they also generate anxiety as humanity braces for the arrival of these supposed breakthroughs, hoping they materialize without instigating unforeseen consequences. At number 10 is the rise of Marxism. One of her predictions that got people on edge is the collapse of the social caste system leading to Marxist socialism. Now, that sounds pretty intense, doesn't it? Let's break it down. The social caste system is like this invisible ranking in society where some people have much more power and privilege than others just because of where they were born and their background, essentially nepotism. But Vanga is saying that this whole thing could crumble and we might end up with a system called Marxist socialism. It's a way of organizing things where everybody shares the wealth more equally. Now here's the thing, Marxism sounds cool in theory, but history has had some dark chapters tied to it. Communism, the big idea behind Marxism, has been tried before. The idea that everyone gets the same slice of cake, which seems fair, but it never ends up working that way. When countries go full communist, leaders take crazy control and individual freedoms take a hit. Just take a look at the Soviet Union or Mao's China. Hundreds of millions suffered and perished and things got pretty bleak. Switching to Marxist socialism might sound like a fix, but it could bring some big problems. Think limited choices, total government control over what you do, and fewer incentives to actually work hard. It's like taking a massive gamble with everybody's freedom. Let's just hope Vanga's off the mark with this one. And number 9 is a virus that ages you. In a world where a virus isn't just a flu or a cold, but something that actually ages you in mere seconds. That's a chilly prediction made by Vanga for 2024, and it's nothing short of terrifying. Picture waking up one morning feeling perfectly fine, only only to finding your skin wrinkling, your hair graying, and body weakening rapidly before your very eyes. It's the stuff nightmares are made of. The thought of a virus that accelerates aging is scary because it's something we've never experienced. We're used to illnesses that make us sick for a while, but this prediction takes it to a whole new level. It's a reminder about how fragile life can be and how unpredictable the future is. Now, while predictions like this may seem far-fetched, they make us reflect on our vulnerability and the importance of staying vigilant about health and scientific advancements. If you're enjoying the video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing that notification bell. At number 8, Europe becomes Muslim. The predictions for 2024 from Vanga are pretty intense, especially about the one about a big war. She said there'll be this great Muslim war that could lead to millions of people becoming unalived. Pretty scary. Like a massive conflict causing so much loss. But then she goes on to say that Europe will end up being in a bad shape because of this war, like almost empty. Talking about Muslims invading and taking over Europe, leaving it with way fewer people living there by 2025. Predictions like these can be pretty alarming, but it's important to remember that they're just predictions. Sometimes they come true, but other times they don't. So while it's good to be aware of what's being said, it's also good to take it with a little grain of salt. Because things can change and people can work together to prevent bad stuff from happening. The environmental destructor. There's this wild prediction about the US facing some intense situation while Rome is under Islamic control. It's like a scene from a movie, but even scarier because she talks about this weapon called the environmental destructor. It essentially freezes anything it touches instantly. Some pretty sci-fi stuff. If that comes true, it could be a game changer in warfare. Imagine the power it could hold, but at the same time, it's pretty terrifying to think about. The thought of something that could freeze things in an instant is enough to send shivers down your spine. I mean, could help with global warming though, so that's a plus. At number 6, China becomes the next global superpower. If the US loses its top spot, it could trigger a massive economic crisis. Right now, the US dollar reigns supreme in global trade, keeping the economy stable, but China aims to change that by replacing it with their currency, the yuan. I think I pronounced that right. This move could shrink the US economy by 2% in a snap, leading to job losses and soaring import prices. China also wants to rewrite history, shaping the global views of their past leaders and events. They're eyeing control over movies, using them as propaganda tools as well. Japan's uneasy about China's rise given their unresolved past conflicts. If Japan resists, China might sideline them. Taiwan faces pressure too as China demands their return under their rule, hinting at military action if necessary. This rise to power may not stay peaceful. China's currently building a powerful military, gearing up for potential conflicts, possibly leading to a new Cold War, or worse, a destructive showdown with the US. That made it worse. Alright, at number 5 is synthetic organs. Imagine a future where synthetic organs are all over the place, just like picking up groceries at a store. Sounds cool, right? I mean, but wait, it gets pretty eerie because she predicts that transplants will become a normal thing, like everyone's getting them like it's a new fad, swapping out organs like it's no big deal. Now that might sound convenient, but it also raises some serious ethical questions. Are we playing with nature too much? Are we ready for a world where swapping out body parts is as common as getting a new iPhone? Vanga's crystal ball seems to think so, but let's hope this prediction stays in the realm of speculation because that future might be a bit too freaky for comfort. At number 4 is the cosmic vacuum energy. Vanga's 2024 predictions talk about something wild. Something called cosmic vacuum energy. Imagine plugging into space itself for power. Sounds super sci-fi, but she said it would be real. This tech could change the game, making clean energy like nothing we've seen before. Think about it. No more need to pollute the earth for power. It's like literally generating energy from thin air, but instead of thin air, it's the vacuum of space. If this happens, it would mean huge things for how we live. We may not need to worry about running out of power anymore. Like unlocking an unlimited energy cheat code for the world. But hey, predictions are tricky. We've got to wait around another year to see if this one turns real or if it's just another idea that didn't quite pan out. At number 3, interspecies communication. Imagine a world where we could talk to animals like Mr. Doolittle. Well, in 2024, things might just get a bit wilder. Baba Vanga foretold some eyebrow-raising stuff, and one spooky forecast involves a global animal communication breakthrough. Yeah, I'm talking about telepathic chats with critters. Picture chatting away with your dog about treats, or understanding a dolphin's squeaks. It sounds pretty cool, right? I did not mean for that to rhyme, but I'm so glad it did. But hold on to your horses, because this power could be a double-edged sword. Understanding animal feelings might shake things up, as we could learn heartbreaking truths about their suffering or needs that we're ignoring. Now, on the bright side, it might help us protect endangered species by understanding their woes, but still, it's spooky thinking about the unknowns this communication could bring. So while it's exciting to imagine chatting with furry pals, we might want to hope Vanga missed the mark on this one.
It is said that for 2024, Baba predicted the alteration in the very orbit of Earth. The orbits of bodies in the solar system are determined by gravitational forces and are always prone to change. However, such alterations typically take place in a very gradual way over long time periods, so anything more radical would have dramatic outcomes for us all. Now, this could cause us humans to have a lot of problems. If this happens over a short period of time, it could spark issues including climate disruption and a spike in radiation levels. Now, NASA is real serious about protecting our planet and doesn't want this to happen. In 2022, NASA successfully altered an asteroid's orbit that was heading towards Earth. All of us have a responsibility to protect our home planet. After all, it's the only one we have, said NASA Administrator Bill Nelson. This mission shows that NASA is trying to be ready for whatever the universe throws at us. NASA has proven that we are serious as a defender of the planet. This is a watershed moment for planetary defense of all humanity, demonstrating commitment from NASA's exceptional team and partners from around the world. So if the orbit alteration happens quickly and does cause chaos, NASA will do everything they can to help us, even though they might not be able to prevent it. Next up, we have climate change. Baba has made predictions about environmental issues such as climate change, and let me tell you, climate change is already here and affecting us poorly. Sea levels along the US coastline are projected to rise on average 10 to 12 inches in the next 30 years per NOAA. For context, that will be as much as the rise in sea level measured over the last 100 years. That is not good news for the 127 million Americans in coastal counties. Now, due to climate change, flooding is expected to become more frequent and severe. By 2050, scientists expect flooding to occur approximately 10 times more than it does today. Climate change is also altering ecosystem productivity, exacerbating the speed of invasive species, and changing how species interact with each other and with their environment. These changes are reconfiguring ecosystems in unprecedented ways, and if we don't start to try and fix all this soon, we are just screwed. Now we have nuclear attacks. Baba anticipates a major country is conducting nuclear weapon tests or attacks this year. Now, who, where, and when has not been predicted, but there are a lot of viable options. The United States has approximately 4,000 nuclear warheads in its arsenal. Russia is testing bombs, and also newly designed nuclear weapons can create radioactive tsunamis that render targeted areas unlivable for decades. Rogue nations such as Iran and North Korea are desperately trying to obtain nuclear weapons, and according to CNBC, China is rapidly expanding its nuclear arsenal and could have 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030, part of Beijing's ambitious military buildup. Now, in 2021, humanity has about 13,410 nuclear weapons, which is too high for me, but now that it's 2024, I'm sure there's thousands more, and I just don't like that. Moving on to droughts. Okay, so she did not predict this for this year. This is something she's already predicted that's come true. Yep, you've heard that right. Some of her predictions have come true. Baba apparently predicted a number of extreme weather events in 2022. She prophesied that a number of large cities around the world would be hit by large-scale droughts and water shortages. Now, that year, the UK had its driest July since 1935, officially declaring drought on August 12th. Meanwhile, other countries in Europe also faced drought, including France, Italy, and Portugal. Extreme droughts measured by surface soil moisture covered almost 50% of global land areas in 2022, marking the second most widespread year since 1980. In many places, these droughts were also accompanied by unprecedented heat waves. It was so shocking that a study titled Understanding and Attribution of Extreme Heat and Drought Events in 2022 2022, current situation and future challenges, examined the events from a global perspective, shedding light on the causes and implications of these extreme weather phenomena. Now, hopefully this was just a one-time thing, but with climate change, anything can happen. Now let's talk about the floods. Again, these floods already happened, but it's still scary that she predicted these. She claimed that Australia and Asia would experience floods, and it was reported in 2022 that heavy rain across southeast Australia this month has forced thousands of people from their homes. Flooding has affected at least 16 rivers in the states of New South Wales and Victoria, as well as the island state of Tasmania. The flooding has resulted from heavy rain over areas with full catchments and soils still saturated by 2 years of wet La Nina summers. For the first time in decades, some dams are at capacity. Sydney has experienced its wettest year on record, while in other regions, century-old October rainfall records have been broken. In a single hour on October 7th, Melbourne received half its average monthly rainfall. Now that is just crazy. Then heavy monsoon rains and flash flooding ravaged several Southeast Asian countries, ending the lives of dozens of people, forcing thousands to flee their homes, and it damaged key agricultural areas. In October that year, it was said that intense rain was expected to continue throughout Thailand, where 59 of the country's 77 provinces had already been hit by floods, affecting about 450,000 homes and more than 100 hectares. So it seems like she was right again. Now we have solar storms. Baba Vanga is also believed to have predicted a powerful solar storm that would affect Earth's climate. In 2023, she predicted a terrible solar storm. Now, while solar activity is a lot more regular than you may think, there were multiple notable solar flares that occurred. X-class flares are big major events that can trigger planet-wide radio blackouts and long-lasting radiation storms. If you didn't know, there had been 12 X-class flares in 2023. Now my question is, why didn't anyone tell us about this? It's absolutely terrifying, and the fact that it happened 12 times is insane to me. Space weather experts at NASA and other agencies take this threat seriously, and they closely monitor the sun for potentially hazardous activity, but if a big enough storm or sun flare were to happen, it would put the world in absolute chaos, and that is not something I want to experience in my lifetime. Then there's earthquakes. Some interpretations suggest Baba has predicted significant natural disasters, including earthquakes. While we have gotten better at predicting earthquakes, that doesn't mean we know when all of them will happen or how big they will be. Now, when I hear about the possibility of a major earthquake, I always think of the San Andreas Fault. And if you're a dedicated viewer, you might know that I talk about this fault quite a lot when it comes to natural disaster videos because it's so scary. Now, the risk is currently concentrated on the southern section of the fault, aka the region around Los Angeles, because strong earthquakes have occurred relatively recently on the central 1857 and the northern 1906 segments of the fault, while the southern section has not seen any similar rupture for at least 300 years. That means it's due to rupture any day now. All the data suggests that the fault is ready for the next big earthquake, but exactly when the triggering will happen and when the earthquake will occur is unknown, which I don't like hearing about because it freaks me out. I mean, I live on the East Coast too, so I don't know why it scares me so much, but it really does. Now on to the ice caps melting. Baba said that from 2033 to 2045, the polar ice caps will melt, causing ocean levels to rise, but bad news, that is already happening to us. If emissions continue to rise unchecked, the Arctic could be ice-free in the summer by 2040. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that freaks me out. If this happens, bad things can start to happen. Less ice means less reflected heat, meaning more intense heat waves worldwide, but it also means more extreme winters. Then there's the issue of food. Polar vortexes, increased heat waves, and unpredictability of weather caused by ice loss are already causing significant damages to crops on which global food systems depend. This instability will continue to mean higher prices for food, and guys, I'm already struggling to buy groceries as it is. Now, this could also affect wildlife. If there's less sea ice, animals that depend on it for survival must adapt or die. Loss of ice and melting permafrost isn't good for polar bears, walruses, arctic foxes, snowy owls, reindeer, and many other species. As they are affected, so are the other species that depend on them, in addition to people. Up next is attacks. Baba has claimed that there will be many attacks on the world in 2024. First of all, she claims there will be an assassination attempt on Vladimir Putin. He's not very well liked, so he has a lot of security, but it appears that he'll need to watch his back even more this year, as it said he'll face an assassination attempt, not by an international agent, but someone from his own country. Still, Baba only predicted an attempt on Putin's life, so he'll probably survive. Then she said there will be an attack on Europe, and Europe is supposedly set for an attack by extremists. Now, she didn't say where exactly in Europe these strikes would take place, so I'd just be overly cautious there. And lastly, we have volcanoes erupting. Baba has also predicted volcanic eruptions affecting various parts of the world. The Lake Toba supervolcano on the Indonesian island of Sumatra is currently home to the largest volcanic lake on Earth, formed 74,000 years ago when it last blew in the biggest eruption for 25 million years. It is estimated that around 2,800 cubic kilometers of volcanic ash and lava were thrown into the atmosphere, and now it may be about to erupt again. Now, this isn't the only supervolcano. Oh no. Now, the question about supervolcanoes, as it turns out, isn't whether one could destroy all life on Earth, it is when it will do it again. Now, around 200 million years ago, a supervolcano erupted with such insistent energy that 75% of the species on the planet were eradicated. It was so gigantic that it pulled apart North America and Africa and created the Atlantic Ocean in between. So could we have a supervolcano erupt this year? I hope not, because then we'd just all be doomed.